So right now, mid-market companies are just, I mean, they're spending absolute millions on artificial intelligence subscriptions.
Oh, absolutely. Millions.
Yeah, and they're expecting this army of autonomous agents to basically just run their business for them.
Right, while the leadership team is off sipping pina coladas on the beach somewhere.
Exactly. But the reality is the market is moving incredibly fast and the budgets are being allocated, the software is being deployed everywhere.
Yeah,
But then, and this is the kicker, when these companies actually look for their measurable return on investment, they're just looking at a blur.
it's fuzzy, completely fuzzy.
Right. There is this massive, massive gap between the velocity of adoption and the visibility of any actual financial advantage.
And, that has really become the defining frustration of business technology today.
Yeah.
I mean, you see all this activity happening on the screen, the text is generating, the code is compiling, everything looks
It feels productive.
exactly, it feels productive. But tracing that back to actual margin expansion or revenue growth, that feels almost impossible for a lot of organizations right now.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today.
Yeah, we have some great material for you.
We really do. So we are looking at issue 11 of Red Hawk Technologies newsletter.
Like Streamline and Scale.
And this specific issue is titled, If Your AI Strategy Starts with Software, Stop.
Such a great title.
It really grabs you. And we also have a stack of their accompanying blog posts and some really good insights from their leadership team to help guide us through this.
Yeah, because if you're listening right now and you're sitting there knowing your organization needs to leverage these new tools.
Because everyone does.
Right, you have to.
Yeah.
But you're probably wary of just, setting your budget on fire chasing hype.
Yeah.
So this material provides a very grounded, practical roadmap.
It really does. And I think setting that foundation requires a pretty fundamental mindset shift for a lot of leaders.
Oh, massive. Because most companies, they see a major software provider release a new enterprise AI feature, and what do?
They just buy seats for everyone.
Exactly. The immediate instinct is to buy licenses for the entire team just to, see what happens.
Let's just throw it at the wall and see what sticks.
Right. But the sources we're looking at today advocate for the complete opposite approach.
Yeah, and reading through Red Hawk CEO Matt Strippelhoff's appearance on the Dynamics Corner podcast, specifically episode 517, his core message actually took me by surprise.
Really? How so?
Well, for a tech CEO, his first rule is basically to ban the word AI from the initial planning meetings.
Yeah, that is a bit counterintuitive when you first hear it.
Right. He argues that you have to take the technology completely out of the conversation at the beginning. You have to focus entirely on your business architecture first.
And he calls this framework flipping the script, because instead of starting with this shiny new tool and kind of hunting around your office for a place to use
Which
it
happens all the time.
all the time, you instead map out your most critical business workflow from end to end.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice?
Specifically, you want to chart the journey from the very moment a new opportunity enters your business all the way through to cash in the door.
Cash in the door. I like that. It really makes me think of someone going out and buying a $2,000 high-end commercial-grade food processor.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Just because every trendy chef on social media has one, you go out and buy it. You put this massive machine on your counter, and only then do you realize you don't actually know what meal you want to cook.
And you have zero ingredients in the fridge.
Exactly. You haven't bought any ingredients at all. The machine is incredibly powerful, obviously, but if you just turn it on right then, it's only going to spin its blades.
It's just making noise.
Right. It generates activity, but it doesn't feed anyone.
That captures the danger perfectly. I mean, buying a solution in search of a problem always leads to wasted resources every single time.
So true.
So to figure out what meal you are actually cooking, to use your analogy, the framework suggests walking that opportunity to cash workflow and actively hunting for 3 specific failure points.
Okay, 3 failure points. What's the first one?
First, you look for handoffs.
Handoffs.
Right. Where does work pass from one person or one system to another? Because every time a baton is passed, velocity drops.
Oh, for sure.
And context is almost always lost during that handoff.
Okay, so handoffs are number 1. And second, you look for friction, right?
Yes. Friction is all that manual effort that really just shouldn't exist anymore.
Like, give me an example of that.
Think about the moment a massive sales contract is signed. It's a huge win, right?
Everyone is celebrating.
Exactly. But then it takes 3 days and 4 manual data reentries from a PDF before the finance department can even generate the first invoice.
Ugh, yes. We've all been there.
That gap, that friction. That is exactly where you bleed money.
Right, because time is money. And then the third failure point is mistakes.
Yes, mistakes. Where are the errors happening that require rework? Because rework is incredibly expensive.
So once you identify those three areas, handoffs, friction, and mistakes, the framework lays out a very deliberate 5-step process, right?
That's right. Step 1 is mapping the workflow.
Okay.
Step 2 is finding that friction we just talked about.
Okay.
And then step 3 is quantifying the cost of that friction in real, measurable dollars.
Which is huge, because putting an actual dollar amount on the friction changes the entire psychology in the boardroom.
Oh, completely. It shifts the whole conversation.
You stop asking abstract questions like, should we invest in machine learning?
Not correct.
And you start asking, how fast can we deploy a solution to stop bleeding this specific amount of capital?
Exactly. Which brings us to step 4. And this is crucial.
Okay.
Only after you have quantified the financial bleeding do you actually ask the AI question.
So you look at the bottleneck first.
Yes. You look at the bottleneck and you evaluate if an automated agent can solve that exact specific problem.
Got it.
And then step 5 is building a governance foundation before you deploy a single piece of software.
You know, this systematic approach, it really completely shatters this myth that is just rampant right now.
Which one?
The sources refer to it as the 14 agents and billions from the beach fantasy.
Oh, right. I see that all the time.
I see it online every single day. It's this promise that you can just, spin up a few autonomous bots, let them run your entire sales pipeline, and go on vacation.
Yeah, and it is a very dangerous illusion.
Why is it so dangerous?
Because autonomous agents operate entirely within the structure your business provides them. They follow logic.
Right. They aren't magic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If your underlying process relies on chaotic tribal knowledge, like, for instance, if your team only gets things done because an employee named Dave knows to ignore standard procedure on Tuesdays.
Good old Dave.
Right. But an automated agent will not understand that. It doesn't know Dave. It will simply execute your broken documented process at light speed.
Oh, wow. So it just makes the mess happen faster.
Yes. It just amplifies your errors.
So sustainable integration is really built on the very unglamorous work of documenting processes and cleaning up data first.
Very unglamorous, but necessary.
But knowing you have friction in that opportunity to cash pipeline doesn't mean the immediate answer is obvious.
No, it rarely is.
Which really leads to the overarching theme from the Streamline and Scale newsletter. They point out that AI initiatives are not failing because of bad technology.
Right.
They are failing because of a sequencing problem. Companies are just doing things in the wrong order.
And the first major sequencing mistake is starting with the tools instead of financial outcomes.
Like we were just saying with the food processor.
Exactly.
Right.
Deploying a generative text tool without a defined cost reduction or margin expansion objective is a trap.
But people like using them. Right.
Sure. You might see a lot of enthusiastic usage from employees. They might use it to, summarize long emails or draft internal memos.
Right.
But summarizing a meeting doesn't fundamentally alter your profit and loss statement.
That makes sense.
AI is a leverage mechanism, and leverage requires a specific financial fulcrum to actually move the needle for the business.
Which actually brings up a very complicated tension in the workplace.
So the shadow AI.
Yes. The second mistake the sources highlight is skipping governance, specifically regarding this shadow AI.
It's everywhere.
It is, because employees are finding these tools on their own. They're using personal accounts, free browser extensions, unvetted software just to get their jobs done faster.
And leadership teams are frequently just turning a blind eye.
Because they see productivity going up in the short term.
Exactly.
But I want to push back on this for a second. Let's view this from the employee's perspective.
Let's do it.
If someone is buried under a mountain of just tedious data extraction, and they find a free online tool that cuts a 4-hour task down to 20 minutes, shouldn't leadership celebrate that initiative?
It sounds like they should, right?
Yeah. I mean, calling it shadow IT almost makes it sound malicious when it really seems like the exact kind of grassroots innovation that companies claim they want.
From the individual contributor's point of view, it absolutely feels like efficiency. It feels like a win.
Right.
But zooming out to the organizational level, innovation without guardrails introduces catastrophic risk.
Catastrophic. Like what?
Consider the mechanics of what happens when that employee tries to save time. They might copy a spreadsheet containing highly sensitive customer financial records.
Oh, yikes.
Or a developer might copy proprietary company source code and just paste it right into a public AI model to get a quick summary or a big fix.
Because they just see a helpful chat window. They aren't thinking about where that data goes after they hit enter.
Precisely. And that proprietary code or that customer financial data is now potentially part of the public model's training data.
So it's just out there.
It's out there. They are leaking intellectual property. They are violating strict data compliance laws, and they are completely unaware of the legal exposure they have just created for the entire business.
Wow.
Trading a few hours of productivity for a massive data breach lawsuit is not a sound strategy.
No, definitely not. That puts the red tape into a very different perspective.
It really does.
So the sources argue that the solution is not to blindly ban all artificial intelligence, though, right?
No, because if you ban it, employees will simply hide their usage better.
Right, they'll just use it on their phones under the desk.
Exactly.
Instead, organizations need an AI acceptable use policy, an AUP.
Yes, an AUP is critical.
And it doesn't have to be, a 50-page legal document. It just needs to draw clear boundaries.
Keep it simple.
Right, like what tools are officially vetted and approved, what specific categories of data are strictly prohibited from being entered into external models, and, what is the protocol for human review of automated output.
And alongside that policy, the sources emphasize the need for an AI czar.
An AI czar, I love that title.
It's a great title. In a mid-market company, this could be the chief operating officer or maybe a designated technical lead. But someone has to own the strategy.
The buck has to stop somewhere.
Exactly. Someone must be accountable for evaluating the security of new tools, setting the data standards, and answering all those inevitable daily questions from the team.
Because if you don't have a designated owner, an acceptable use policy is really just a document that gathers dust on a server.
100%. It's useless without ownership.
But even if you successfully lock down your data, right, and you establish your acceptable use policy, there is a quieter, more insidious way these initiatives die in the boardroom.
Yeah, this is the third strategic mistake.
Right, measuring activity instead of financial ROI.
And this often starts with a pilot program. A company launches a new tool, employees log in, the dashboard shows, high daily active user metrics, and boom, the project is declared a huge success.
Everyone pats themselves on the back.
Right. But then the finance team reviews the quarter.
Uh-oh.
And they ask, how much money did this tool actually save? Or how many days did it shave off the sales cycle? And suddenly no one has an answer.
Because a pilot program only proves that the software turns on and functions.
Exactly.
It does not prove actual business value. To scale responsibly, the return on investment must tie back to hard metrics.
Hard metrics, like revenue growth, cost reduction, cycle time, or productivity per employee.
But tracking that financial ROI forces a very uncomfortable realization for most companies, doesn't it?
Oh, it really does.
It uncovers what the sources identify as the hidden prerequisite for success.
Data architecture.
Yes. You cannot measure financial impact, and you certainly cannot scale automation without a rock-solid data architecture, specifically a properly designed data warehouse.
Right. And let's define what that actually means in practice for people.
Yeah, break that down.
Most mid-market companies operate with highly fragmented data.
So true.
You have the sales team, right? They're working out of a customer database, the CRM.
Yep.
Then you have the operations team relying on an entirely separate enterprise resource planning software and ERP.
Two different worlds.
And then you have the finance department just kind of duct taping it all together with a dozen interconnected spreadsheets.
Which is terrifying. And unleashing a machine learning model into that environment, that will produce disastrous results.
Disastrous. Because these models rely on recognizing patterns and relationships in your data. If your underlying systems have conflicting definitions for basic metrics, the model just cannot function properly.
Like, imagine asking your system, what was our profit margin on this product line last quarter?
Oh, that's a perfect example.
Right, because the sales department might calculate profit margin based on gross revenue, while finance calculates it after deducting operational overhead.
Two totally different numbers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're using the exact same term to mean two completely different numbers.
And if that data is not centralized, standardized, and cleaned within a data warehouse, the AI does not know which department is correct.
It has no idea.
So it will just average the conflicting truths, or maybe bowl the most easily accessible number.
Yeah.
And that leads to deeply flawed business insights.
The sources provide a warning that sums this up perfectly, actually.
What's the quote?
They say, without a properly designed data warehouse, AI simply scales bad assumptions.
Wow. Scales bad assumptions. That's powerful.
It's a chilling concept, really. I mean, if an automated pricing agent relies on those conflicting profit margins to set discounts for new clients,
Oh, no.
yeah, it could systematically erode the company's profitability in a matter of hours.
You know, people often assume that introducing advanced technology will magically create alignment across a disorganized company.
They think the software is a silver bullet.
Exactly, but it does the exact opposite. It boldly and ruthlessly exposes the lack of alignment.
Right.
It will highlight every single inconsistent definition, every hidden data silo, and every broken process you have allowed to persist.
Which is why a data warehouse acts as the single source of truth.
Yes. It forces the organization to agree on definitions so that when the system learns, it is learning from reality.
Not from three different departmental interpretations of reality.
Exactly.
So, rather than just talking in the abstract about data warehouses and acceptable use policies, I looked really closely at how Red Hawk Technologies actually handles this internally.
I love when companies eat their own dog food.
Me too!
Yeah.
They applied this exact framework to a very specific, very expensive problem in their own business: quality assurance, or QA, in software development.
And QA is an excellent case study.
Why is that?
Because it is absolutely critical, but it's incredibly time-intensive.
Right.
It requires creating exhaustive test plans, running those scenarios manually, and checking for bugs. And traditionally, this happens at the very end of the software development cycle.
When everyone is already tired.
Exactly. When development inevitably runs long, QA gets squeezed.
The pressure just builds on the developers, the timelines start slipping, and the risk of releasing a defective product just skyrockets. It perfectly fits the criteria we discussed earlier, doesn't it?
It really does.
It is a clear workflow filled with friction where mistakes cost real money and damage reputations.
Yeah.
And reading through the notes from Jason Wilson, their VP of engineering, they aren't just telling an AI to generally, test the software.
No, that would be too broad.
Right. They are deploying it in three very specific targeted applications.
Let's hear them.
First, they are using automated agents to build the test plans from scratch.
That's amazing, because instead of a human engineer spending days reading the new code and kind of guessing where a user might break it,
Yeah.
the AI analyzes the logic paths of the code commit. It then automatically generates highly structured test scenarios and populates testing tools, like a platform called Kiwi, with those cases almost instantly.
Which drastically shortens the gap between writing the code and actually preparing to validate it.
By days, sometimes.
And they take it a step further with tools like Playwright.
Oh, Playwright is great.
Yeah. It is not just planning the tests, it is executing the end-to-end testing.
This is where we see the concept of regression testing really automated.
Right?
Because when you add a new feature to software, you have to ensure that the new addition didn't accidentally break 5 existing features.
Which happens all the time.
All the time. So the AI scripts a simulated user that clicks through the web application just like a human would, testing every workflow, but doing it 1,000 times faster.
Wow.
It ensures highly repeatable, reliable validation across the entire system.
Which eliminates that nightmare scenario of fixing one bug only to create 3 new ones.
Exactly.
And the third application focuses on what they call CI/CD integration.
Which stands for continuous integration and continuous deployment.
Right.
In a modern development environment, the moment new code goes live, the system instantly runs automated smoke tests.
Okay, a smoke test, what is that exactly?
A smoke test is basically a rapid-fire check of the core functionality to make sure the application didn't just metaphorically catch on fire when you deployed it.
Ah, okay.
So instead of waiting for a QA team to manually log in the next morning and click around to make sure the site is up,
The developer gets instant automated feedback on whether their deployment is actually stable, replacing hope with automated confidence. I love that.
Yeah.
Jason Wilson actually noted that this drastically reduces costs and speeds up time to market. But perhaps most importantly, it significantly lowers the stress level for the engineering team when releasing new versions.
I can imagine. It completely changes the entire culture around deployment.
It really does. But, it does raise a crucial question about the human element.
I was wondering when we'd get to this.
Yeah, the FAQ section in this source material addresses this specifically. Does this level of automation entirely replace the human QA team?
Right. It is the fear everyone has when they hear about software writing and testing its own code.
Will the robots take our jobs?
Exactly. But the sources are very clear that human oversight is still absolutely required.
Okay, that's a relief.
The technology does not replace the QA professional. What it does is automate the repetitive, high-volume, mundane parts of the process.
The digital heavy lifting.
Exactly. Human engineers are still deeply needed to validate the automated results, to handle highly complex or nuanced testing scenarios, and to ensure the overall quality actually aligns with real-world user expectations.
So it elevates their role.
Yes, it elevates them from manual clicking to strategic oversight.
It basically turns QA from a final, stressful bottleneck into an integrated, accelerated part of the entire development flow.
That's the perfect way to phrase it.
They found a financially material problem, they applied a targeted solution, and they achieved measurable ROI through reduced cycle times and lowered risk.
It really proves that when you get the sequencing right, these tools stop being expensive science experiments and become true operational leverage.
All right, let's quickly recap the territory we have covered for you today.
Sounds good.
First, you have to take the technology out of the initial conversation and map your critical workflows from opportunity to cash. Find those friction points and quantify their cost in real dollars.
Second, avoid the three strategic mistakes.
Right.
Stop starting with tools instead of financial outcomes. Do not skip governance. You need to implement an acceptable use policy to protect your intellectual property. And always measure success by financial return, not just user activity.
Third, remember that data readiness is the ultimate decider of success.
Yes.
You cannot scale advanced technology if your underlying systems are speaking completely different languages. Clean up your data warehouse so you aren't just scaling bad assumptions.
And finally, apply all of this to specific painful bottlenecks, just like we saw with the QA testing case study.
Build the foundation before you try to build the penthouse.
That's a great rule to live by.
As we wrap up today, I want to leave you with a final thought based on the idea that AI acts as a black light on your operations.
Oh, a black light.
Yeah, it doesn't fix your internal misalignment, it ruthlessly exposes it. So if deploying a new software tool accidentally functions as a brutal audit of your company's data and processes, what other non-technical operational skeletons might a serious initiative uncover in your own business?
A provocative but absolutely necessary question to ask before you sign that next vendor contract.
The technology might just be the mirror that forces you to finally look at the mess you have been avoiding. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into Red Hawk Technologies newsletter. We hope this roadmap helps you cut through the hype and start building some real leverage. Until next time.